How are you? Oh
We
my
did
gosh.
it. How
Yes,
are
we
you?
did.
I'm good.
Okay, it's been a minute since we've chatted, and I literally love everything you're doing so much.
Oh,
I just love you.
I love you so much. One day we will tell the world how we connected, but
Okay, no, wait. We connected, and everybody, I will introduce you to Anastasia in a moment here. So just keep hopping on. But
hello,
because
my
we're just
loves,
having like
everybody.
a warrior reconnect moment. But we initially met through Firm, I think, right?
Yes,
And then, okay, yeah, crazy. And then just like
crazy.
became social media friends. And
This is
yes,
the best. You are so encouraging, empowering. For anyone that does not know Emily, you need to know her. You need to follow her on all of your platforms, YouTube, all the things. You're incredible. Literally
well,
changing the world with the conversations you're having with people. So,
girl, right back at you. Like,
yes.
right back at you. And that's what I love about you so much. Like, when we filmed your Becoming story, and it was a while ago now, like, I just
Yeah.
remember leaving that. Like, we are soul sisters, warrior sisters at heart.
Yes.
And, oh, yes. Hey, Courtney, it's good to see you, girl.
Courtney's
And
in the house.
as you guys are hopping on, like, please let Anastasia and I know that you're here. Drop a hello in the comments. I'm just pumped about this Instagram live. And we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit. If somebody was new to you,
Mhm.
Anastasia, could you just introduce yourself? I know we've got people from both of our followings,
Yes.
and I just would love for people to get to know you because you're amazing.
Oh, I love that so much. Yes, my name is Anastasia. I live in Southern California, and I primarily am a brand storytelling expert. So I help people show up in the fullness of who God created them to be and use their stories to build an authentic, soulful brand. This is for personal brands, business brands, all the things. In addition to that, I love copywriting. I'm a Pinterest expert as well, so I help business owners grow their brands with Pinterest and coaching. One-on-one coaching and mentorship is my jam.
I love it. And how many years have you been on this journey now? Because, I mean, you took a
Um,
big faith step, moved, launched
yes,
everything.
yes. I've been on this journey for about 7 years. I've owned my business, helping women find their voice and use it in all the ways, blogging to speaking to Instagram to all the things. So,
I love it. I love it. And
latest
y'all,
adventure.
if you guys are not following Anastasia, please make sure you follow her and then also watch her
Yeah.
Becoming story at BecomingMeTV. You'll get to know more of her journey there, and you just inspire me so much.
Oh, I
So
love you.
I love you too. And, I'm really excited about today's
Me
conversation
too.
because, I mean, I feel like every time I get onto TikTok, I see the trend on how to romanticize your life, right?
Yes.
And as I was seeing that simultaneously, I see on your Instagram feed, like how to fall in love with your life, how to love yourself. And I
Hmm.
really love how you're leveraging your voice to remind us to love who we are. And as
Yes.
we kicked off this conversation, because sometimes people can be a little bit like, oh, well, love yourself. Like, shouldn't we talk about loving other people? Blah, blah,
Right.
blah. Well, let me tell you, this is biblical as we dive in. Okay. So I'm going to read this from the Message version. It's Matthew 22, verses 37 through 40. Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your passion and prayer and intelligence. This is the most important, the first on any list. But there's a second set to go alongside it. Love others as well as you love yourself. So, literally in God's word, y'all, we are instructed that we will love other people how we first love
Yes.
us. So, if we don't know how to love here first, there's no way I can love Anastasia or other warriors at all because I don't love me. And we
Yes.
miss that a lot. So that's why we're having this
Yes.
conversation. It's not just some silly TikTok trend, but the fact that there's a trend on how to love your life
Yeah.
shows the importance of this conversation. So I hope that sets a little bit of our foundation. But Anastasia, I kind of want to kick it off with like, what does it even mean to you when you even hear this topic, like how to love yourself? What does that mean?
So much came up for me as I was preparing for this talk and praying through it, feeling through it, drawing on my own personal experiences, because I will say this is one area of my life that I am an expert in. And I have spent time,
Mm,
money, resources learning how to love myself. And it's been something that's been a priority for me. And I've seen the ripple effects of loving myself in all these areas of my life. Now, I'm not perfect, but I will 100% share everything with you all that I have learned on this journey, because these are things that nobody really taught me. Decades of just, learning this myself. So I came up with like a 3-part situation. I mean, you should see, I have a whole document here because I got to get this information to you.
I love it. I love it. Bring it, girl.
So to your question, this first part I started with why we don't love ourselves.
Ooh, I love that. Why don't we?
Why don't we love ourselves? I go from why don't we love ourselves to how to love ourselves, and then what happens when we love ourselves. Ooh. So these are the 3. Ooh. And I invite you and everybody watching and listening to light up the chat. Like, we will both be looking at the chat as well. Ask your questions, engage with us. Like, this is a conversation for all of us. I wrote 4 reasons why we do not love ourselves. The first, we've been taught that loving ourselves is selfish. And so along with loving ourselves comes this sense of like guilt around loving who God created us to be. We feel like, oh, I can focus on it, but I can't care too much. Or for me, the narrative growing up was like, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. But they forgot to love your neighbor as yourself. They forgot the as yourself, right? So to me, I kind of signed this agreement of selfishness is wrong. I shouldn't be concerned with myself at all. It should all be about God and my neighbor. And so that was just left out. And then we've been distracted. We're distracted by loving other people's lives, loving other people's habits and choices, loving other people's desires and things. And we're so distracted with loving everybody else's life. We will be the first one to be like, oh, you feel this type of way about yourself. No, you're amazing. You're great. But we don't know how to do this for ourselves. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then this third one really hit for me because this is one of the things I work through actively. We don't understand ourselves. Yeah. So there, you know what I mean? Yep. There are just so many things about us that we think are bad or wrong or made wrong or faulty or glitchy, or like we have been like caution tape has been placed around us by other people. Oh, you can go close, but like not too close because she's loud. Or you can go close, but not too close because she's a lot. Or you can go close, but not too close because she's, like people put this caution tape around aspects of ourselves that they didn't create. They didn't put in us. They'll never understand it like the creator does. Right. So we don't understand why we are the way we are sometimes. And we haven't spent time learning, asking the right questions. Right. And then fourth, we don't know how. We just simply don't know how to love ourselves. We don't have the tools yet to start doing it. So I would love to hear from you, like, why don't you think we...
Okay, so those 4 again, I want to make sure they're so powerful that people don't miss them. 1 was fear.
We don't love ourselves because we've been taught selfishness is wrong. Yes. Or guilt. There's guilt around it.
Yep. And what was your number 2?
Distracted by other people.
Distracted. So we're either being selfish or distracted. 3, there was that lack of understanding.
Yes.
Yep. And then 4th, the caution tape.
Yep.
And we don't know how. We don't know how. Does the caution tape come from other people putting, like, because I heard one of the things I love, you said, well, she's too loud. And so we just get this caution tape. Is that things that we're hearing from other people, or things that maybe caution tape we're putting on ourselves, or both?
I think it's both. I think it begins with our environment. Something in our environment tells us this, labels something about us. And we sign the agreement that, okay, that's what it is.
Yep.
And sometimes we have to do this because we're children, we're young, we have to survive, we got to figure out how to navigate this crazy world. So we have all of these contracts that we have signed for things that we don't actually even agree with, but we have lived our life as if this is the truth because I agree that this was the truth about me.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I love the 4 of these. And in the chat, I saw a couple people even sharing some of the things that resonate with them, which was awesome. Courtney, I know that you shared. So if one of those 4 stands out to you the most, just drop it in the comments. We're all in this together. I think in my own becoming journey, I've gone through those 4 layers at different stages. And I think probably the 2 that would stand out the most would be a lack of understanding and the caution tape, like you don't know how. But maybe for Emily, not always, and I'm an Enneagram 1, so I don't know. Are you an Enneagram person,
I'm a
Anastasia?
9 with a 1 wing. Well, I got both my wings, 1 and 8, but
okay, so the 1, like the perfectionist, I am my hardest critic. And so I think a lot of my own caution tape in life is coming from the voices in my own head. And I'm looking at cues for what's accepted, what's loved in other people. And then if I don't maybe see that in me, then I'm putting that caution tape around, or that's how I need to act to be loved or accepted. And so I think those would be the 2 for me, for sure.
I love that. I do feel like I hear what you're saying. It's like you're picking up all of these clues. Like when you are yourself, how do people respond to that? Is there like a ooh, or like a oh, or like a lack of excitement? And then you're like,
so we learn this behavior.
Yes.
And then we choose through that learned behavior whether that's something we can love about ourselves or not love about ourselves.
Right.
So we're just trying to get maybe validation or approval, acceptance. Yeah, I definitely see that too. The selfish guilt part in the chat. Yes.
Mara,
thank you guys for even sharing. It's a big deal. So I know you shared.
Wow, that's so good. Sorry, I was just reading her. Yeah, I felt like I was taking from others when I gave to me.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly. It's crazy.
And that's the lie. That's
So we've got this first chunk, why we don't love ourselves. And you unpacked like a brilliant 4 reasons that really encompass so many ways that all of us, wherever we're at on our journey. So what's next? Like in this journey of how to love you, what's next?
The second part would be how to love ourselves. And the first step is redefining the word selfish. Totally just clearing the whiteboard. It is blank, putting the word selfish on it and redefining what that means.
Okay.
The world the world's definition is, looking out for your self-interests above other people's or at the expense of other people's. And that is not what we're talking about here.
Right.
Right? Like Jesus didn't come live among us, and his intention was not to at the expense of other people. So like when we're talking about loving ourselves, like that kind of love is never at the expense of someone else.
Yeah.
Like that's really harsh, right? So when we're thinking of this like unconditional, holy love that we can have for ourselves, that's kind of how I define selfish now. Like I am concerned with my self-interest and concerned with my relationship with myself. I want to have a godly, holy relationship with myself. Right? So let's redefine the word selfish.
Let's do it, girl.
And then number 2, my favorite pair, unconditional love and boundaries, baby.
Oh, yes.
And they go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. Unconditional love and boundaries. Now I wrote this. The word boundaries could either send a chill down your spine or a smile to your face. It depends what your relationship with the word boundaries is thus far, right?
Yes.
But it's a pretty polarizing word, but it is so necessary for all of us to have boundaries partnered with this unconditional love. And I think a lot, yes, without self-love, you can be a martyr or an enabler. I think a lot of the word, here's another reason why I think it's difficult. Self-love is difficult for us because we've been told that when you love yourself, people don't like boundaries. People don't like to have boundaries.
Well, we like to have boundaries for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to be, and it's hard for people to say, oh, I don't have unlimited access to you. Or like, oh, I can't just so that's hard for people. They want full access to you at all times. They want you to help them with whatever at any time they want. And that's not how this party goes. Boundaries are necessary. Jesus had them. So should we, right?
Yeah.
The third thing is tapping into our intuition. And I am so big on that. So big on that. Because I think God can speak to us in many ways. Signs and wonders, dreams, prophetic words. Like all these things are very real ways that God speaks to us. I believe that intuition is one of those ways that the Holy Spirit can speak to us and remind us of the things that are true.
Yeah.
From the source of unconditional love, right?
Exactly.
That still small voice and that whisper. So tapping into our intuition is truly how we love ourselves and how we build self-trust and build that relationship. And the last one is a game. And I feel like I call it like play the what if game.
Okay.
I call it the what if game. And this can help us love ourselves. So I'm just going to ask a series of what if questions.
Okay.
And feel free to go back and rewatch this at any point. What if you showed up in the world like Jesus did, in the fullest expression of who God created you to be? What if you showed up in this world in the fullest expression of who God created you to be? What if all of the things that you doubted about yourself, and what if all of the labels that were placed on you were gone? What if all of those things are actually gifts that the world needs and were given to you to steward during your time on this earth? What if the things that come so easily to you actually don't come easily to everybody, and that scares them? People saying, you're so loud, you're so loud. Well, what if that's just a projection because they don't know? They haven't cultivated their gift in using their voice. So when they see you using it,
girl,
it's this like, and that. So what if that's true? And what if Jesus was right about you? What if you are a city on a hill that cannot be hidden? What if you are? And lastly, what if the things that you don't understand about yourself or the things that you see as flaws are actually precious gifts, which we touched on before?
Oh my gosh.
So go back, play this what if game, and that'll get the party started.
Okay, I have to ask you, because you are seriously the queen of, you have so many great resources like on your website, your email list, all that stuff. Do you have the what if game as like a designed template somewhere?
Oh, I will make that happen.
Yes. Okay.
I think that's a great idea.
I'm literally, as you were saying those, I would love to have just like a graphic that we can post, or whether people sign up for your email list and they get this, whatever the case may be. Y'all, we will get the instructions from Anastasia because I need that written down. And in the meantime, I'm going to go listen back to the replay. But those were powerful what if statements. Like power. And I love to, you shared earlier when I asked you initially what it meant to love yourself, the big part about having to do the work. And to me, the what if statements that you just took us through that journey, that's the work. Like if I take the time to really sit with those what ifs and answer them, I'm going to walk away with a confident bounce in my step, loving me, in that good selfish way that you just coached us through, in a way to not at the expense of others, truly love them like Jesus. Like, oh, okay. And I want to, because you got my brain firing, girl.
Yeah.
So another question for you, and if this is in the third part, then just say, Emily, you're jumping ahead of me.
No.
I want to go back to the boundaries part a little bit. How do we create boundaries? Like, if somebody's watching right now, they're leaning in, they're like, man, I love those what ifs. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to really do the work to love me.
Yes.
How do you set boundaries with people? Because that's hard.
It is very hard. And I'm in a season where I'm doing this even more. Okay, let me unpack this because this is very important. This ties into the conversation we just had about tapping into your intuition. And once you learn to trust that voice, once you learn to think about your intuition like a message from the Holy Spirit, you'll recognize when it's happening. And it always happens in the present moment. Your intuition isn't going to be like, oh, I meant to tell you 10 days ago that you shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean?
Right now.
It's right now. It is right now. And your intuition will remind you in the moment when something is not aligned. So this is this is just an example that happened pretty recently. I went to an event, an outdoor like motocross event, and it's the first time I've ever done that. So that was fun. I actually really enjoyed it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really fun. And I had this man with his group of friends. He's just walking up the path. We were sitting in our outdoor seats at the stadium. Anyway, he walked up. He was like super big. He was so amped. He was like, yeah. And then he like puts his hand out. He's been drinking. Like everybody's just having partying. He puts his hand out, like wants me to give him a high five randomly. I do not know this man. I have never met this man. He's far enough away to like where he had to like really lean in and like put his hand out and give me a high five. And I just frankly didn't want to. I just didn't want to. But old Anastasia, younger Anastasia, would have been like, I don't want to give him a high five, but I guess I have to, because I guess I just have to be nice. But it kind of makes me uncomfortable. But I guess like people are watching and I don't want to embarrass him and I don't want to embarrass my friend who's with me, and so sure, I'll just put my hand out. And like, that's just an example of self-betrayal.
Yeah.
I showed love to myself by being like, you don't want to do that? We won't do that. And I had my friend next to me that was like, Stasia, why didn't you give my five? That's so awkward. And I'm like, I looked at her and I was like, I didn't want to. And I did not feel bad. Now, if we lay this situation over other areas of our lives, what areas of our lives are we pretending in?
Yeah.
Because when we pretend, when we get out of alignment with who the Holy Spirit has called us to be, when we get out of alignment, like thinking that we're a martyr for so that somebody else can be, elevated, so that somebody else can feel comfortable. We betray ourselves so that somebody else can feel good. We betray ourselves so that somebody else's light can shine. And like, my friend, that is not how it works. So that self-betrayal permeates, and then we doubt ourselves in all areas of our life. We pretend in all these other areas of our lives, I'm not sure if I'm answering this question, your question.
No, I'm tracking with you, because I think it even goes back to your redefinition of selfishness, right? And it's not at the expense of others. And so even taking this scenario that you unpacked for us, which I thought was a great example, you have a stranger you don't know. We're also in like a weird post-COVID land, like all the stuff, right? And so like, I don't know that I want to touch a stranger's hand either. Like, come on, this is just unique. A strange man, I don't know you. Yeah, like what? And so you just choose, no, I don't really want to do that. And so being kindly selfish, because I think sometimes people might think, oh my gosh, like I don't want to be mean. And so
Right.
you can stay true to yourself in a mature, kind way by not doing something you don't want to do, and you can be nice about it. Like,
Yes.
you can be totally nice about it. If a group of
Right.
friends wants to go out one night and you've had a crazy week and it's not best for you and your health to go out, you need a night at home to chill. You can be nice and
Yes.
mature and selfishly say thank you, but no thank you.
Yes.
That's okay. So I think like just that positive side of, it's not at the expense of others. You're not being rude, saying, why would you even want to high five me? Who are you? You know, you're just nicely, no thanks.
Yep. Yes.
I love it.
Without regard of how I'm being perceived. Am I being perceived as mean? Am I being perceived as whatever? Because that whisper that was like, we don't want to do that. I don't know if that, when you listen to that and you know that that is from your soul seat, that's the seat that's connected to God, right? When you know that that's like, listen to it. You don't need any of the other affirmations. You don't need to know how people are going to perceive it. And that to me is boundaries, right? That to me is being like, when your friends ask you to hang out and you're like, I've had a crazy day, I don't think I need to rest. That feels true for you.
Right.
So you communicate, hey, I need to rest.
Right.
And you do
that's
it.
okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You don't think about what they're thinking. You don't think about, oh, now they're mad at me. I mean, obviously, we think about these things, but they shouldn't concern us. Because if selfishness is, if the world's definition of selfishness is concerning with your own interests at the expense of others, then what's to say that giving that man a high five wouldn't have been selfish in the world's definition? Because it would have been at my expense.
You know right. I mean? I don't feel comfortable with it.
I didn't want to, you know?
Yes.
So
yes. Yeah. Now let me ask you this question too, because and the examples that we're talking through, okay, somebody wants to give you a high five, friends hanging out, you know, protecting our time and our boundaries. Let's talk through, because I do think too, even in our, just today, people in our age range, let's say you're not an entrepreneur, you're going to an office every day, and your boss gives you a deadline and they say, hey, I need this by such and such. And internally you're like, I don't want to do that. And then you're like, well, Emily and Anastasia said that if I don't want to do it, self-love is saying, no, thank you. Like, what's the difference between maturity in a professional environment and self-love in other areas? Does that make sense? I just want to make sure, because I have started to see just some of this blurring, and we can be, I want this actually this weekend, my pastor defined authenticity and maturity. You can be authentic, but we can also be mature, right? And so there's some cases where, I might not feel like doing this, but what's the mature way to respond? So speak to that for a minute.
Taking it back to the power of intuition, for context's sake, listen to that voice inside of you. So I'm not sure like the context for that specific situation, but I do know that in the moment, we are always given guidance as to the next step to take, the very next step. We're not always shown the map. We're not always shown the A to Z, but we are promised the very next step. So if we're in a position where we are confused or feeling some like not sure what to do, if we can quiet ourselves, drop deep, breathe into it, and just ask, what is the very next step? This could look like a lot of things for that individual, depending on the context. It could look like, hey, maybe I am overwhelmed, overworked. Maybe I can barely breathe. I'm filled with so much anxiety. This big project is way above I need help. I need help.
Yep.
So, and maybe you're afraid to ask for help. I'm not sure the workplace culture, but maybe there's a fear there asking your boss for help. So a beautiful way to create an opportunity for healing is to have the hard conversation, to be brave and have the conversation that's like,
And that's self-love.
That is self-love, because you are
Yes.
advocating for yourself and you're listening.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. And that's where I was wanting us to, because sometimes self-love can mean leaning into that really challenging conversation or taking responsibility, asking questions. So yeah, no, that's super, super good. Did you have any, I was so excited about what you shared. Did you have anything else on that specific
No,
question?
that was good.
Okay.
We will always be given the very next step.
Yep.
Listen to our
Yep.
intuition, and that next step might not be comfortable. Not going to promise it's comfortable, but having a conversation around what your intuition is saying is the next step is great place
Wait,
to start.
so self-love is not just face masks and bubble baths and candles and
Oh, that is self-care, necessary, but self-care and self-love, my friend,
yes, girl,
they are different.
Bringing it. Okay,
yes.
So I know at the beginning of this conversation, you shared you had 3 big points, right?
Yes.
Why we don't love ourselves, how to, and what's number 3?
Number 3 is what happens when we love ourselves.
Oh, okay, what happens?
This is what happens. All right, I came up with 4 things, I believe. Yes. The first thing is probably the most important, because it is, even what it says in the Bible, love your neighbor as yourself. That's number 2, right? Okay. So when we're able to love ourselves, when we're able to look after our own self-interests, not at the expense of others, but to build that relationship with ourselves and strengthen that, we get to a place of wholeness that divine presence and power is in this place, right? When we love ourselves. From that space, we don't need anything but the unconditional love of God and who we be, right?
Yes.
We are so good. We are so secure. We are so full. We are so whole. And out of that, oh my gosh, that's where the overflow is. That is how we love our neighbor as ourselves, right? So, but when this happens, when we're in this place of presence and wholeness, we can then choose into relationship with others, right? And that's a different space. Choosing into a relationship is different than entering into it in a codependent state.
Yep.
It's different than entering into it with a mentality of, oh, I'm lacking these things. God gave me a lot, but he didn't give me these things. So I'm lacking and I got to find them somewhere else, I guess. Oh, this person has things that I like. I guess I will, be friends with them. Or this person has something that I like that God didn't give me. So I guess I'll date him. Or I guess I'll marry him. Or I'll get, and we enter into these relationships from this place of lack. And that is no way, this perceived void that we create, right? That's no way to grow a strong relationship. That's no way to be in community. We end up being like these parasites, just like leeching onto people. Yeah. And that's not fair. So when we're whole and we love ourselves, we're able to choose into our relationships from a place of power. Then we can show up in the world as the fullest expression of who God created us to be. And it is a powerful way to live. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you were so divinely connected and secure that you did not even need any external validation?
Yes.
I can imagine it, but it's like, is that even possible? You know what I mean? It is possible. It's possible.
Yes, it is.
And then the last thing, yes. So I wrote 2 verses here because they're just so powerful. I think about them often. In the Bible, Jesus said, greater things than this you will do. Greater things than this you will do. And I'm going to read 2 different verses. 1, John 14:12. Very truly I say to you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing. This is Jesus. and they will do even greater things than these because I am going to the Father. So can you imagine living the fullest expression of your existence, doing greater things than Jesus did? He raised people from the dead.
Wow.
He healed the blind. He restored the lame, the sick. He spoke into people's lives. What an incredible life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that same power is alive within you and in me. And this last verse is John 16:7. But very truly I say to you, it is for your good that I'm going away. Unless I go away, the advocate will not come to you. But if I go, I will send him to you.
Yes.
The intuition to me is allowing the advocate to co-create this beautiful life with you in your time on this earth, right? So that's what'll happen.
Oh my goodness, I love it so much. And you know, for our warrior friends who are tuning in with us, we've unpacked in this time together why we don't love ourselves, how to love ourselves, and then what the result is. And so if somebody was wanting to walk away from this warrior conversation, they're like, okay, Anastasia, what's just one step? What's one thing I can apply today to my life to really just learn to love me? What's one thing they can do?
Ooh, okay. Write down everything about yourself that frustrates you. Write down everything about yourself that you don't understand. Just make a long list, however long it is. Write down everything about yourself that you were told was wrong, faulty, glitchy. And I want you to do this practice with unconditional, in the spirit of unconditional love. Like almost imagine you're holding yourself in the palm of your hand, and you just see how sweet and precious you are. Like I literally want you to just feel into your innocence and write this list and hold it with so much love and so much grace. And I want you to look at that list and just say, I am made on purpose. What if everything on this list is actually a gift? The key, in fact, the key that will help me unlock the fullest expression of who God created me to be.
Yep.
That's all I need you to do. Just ask the question, see what happens. Yeah.
Oh, girl, I love it.
Yeah.
I have loved this conversation.
Me
and
too.
you know, y'all who are watching or you're listening to the replay, follow Anastasia, and in the replay I'll have the links as well, because what I love about you is this isn't a one and done conversation. You're really equipping warriors to love themselves, to share their story in a powerful way, and we share our stories the best when we love ourselves and our stories. So I love the resources that you're sending from your email list to your website, your coaching. Like there's so many ways people can continue to learn from you. So make sure that you guys are following Anastasia, and just thank you. This was such a fun warrior
This was
conversation.
incredible. I always love time with you. You are just such a light, and you are living the fullest expression of who God created you to be. I love watching you create and how you are building a community of warriors and people who are so just ready to serve, ready to love, ready to bring all the good and perfect gifts to the world. So
we'll right back at you, warrior friend.
Thanks,
I love
queen.
you. And
love
thank
you
you so much. Talk to you later, girl. Thank you guys
Bye.
for joining us.
Thank you.